Hello, hello. Welcome to this week's episode of the Imaginary Movie Podcast, a podcast where you watch a movie and then we talk about it. My name's David, and oh my God, Ross, you can't just ask somebody why they're white.
My name's Sam, and made out with a hot dog. That was one time, damn it.
Fucking every night, man. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Oh, thank you. That's me.
Barry White, setting it right. And I'm Ross, and much like Karen Smith, I have an ability to tell a shit movie with my eyes, mostly by watching it.
Mostly, but not entirely.
I think we know where Ross is going to go with this.
Absolutely. So, we watched this week 2004's teen movie, Mean Girls, which is quite a big movie. I feel like certainly, I think of it as one of the more prominent alts teen movies.
Yeah, it's a film that I had never seen, but knew enough of in terms of like the cultural impact and the memes, mostly the memes, to think that this is a film we should watch. Like, I've never seen this. I'd like to know what all those gifs are about.
Yeah. Before we get into the plot summary, Sam, what does Mrs. Sam think of this? Is this a movie she's seen? I'm always interested in her outlook. Yes. Being someone who isn't a white man making a podcast, I'm always interested in what she thinks.
She likes this. She doesn't love it, but she likes it. She thinks it's a good film. Or she didn't watch it because she was fast asleep. So I watched this myself, which was
pregnancy will kick the shit out of you. Apparently,
yeah, absolutely.
I went to put this on last night for the podcast, obviously, because I haven't seen it before either. And Amy asked, what's this week's pick? And I went, Mean Girls. She went, who picked that? And I said, I think Sam. I said, he's a weird guy.
He's a strange guy.
Amy said, well, I'm going to bed. I was like, right. And she goes, enjoy this treat. I was like, oh, is it bad? She goes, well, it's a lot like 10 Things I Hate About You. And I went, oh yeah. And she went, but a crap version. Oh.
That's a pretty accurate assessment.
I kind of get that,
yeah. But the reason because of the meme-tasticness of this, I think it's good, and it's also good to branch out. We've got like some very manly movies in the docket, and I think it's
all
good.
Suggested by Ross.
All suggested by Ross.
Well, hang on, Predator was a romantic comedy, so
Predator, yeah.
Go out with me. Sorry.
I was thinking that romance was between Arnie and the Predator.
Of course,
like a really violent romance. But
I think it's important for us to branch out, to do films, for teenage girls, and not for three men in this.
They are dying to know our thoughts on this.
It's really important that we
captivated
white men in our 30s talk on the internet about this movie from 2004 marketed to teenage girls.
Please don't attack me.
I think it's the most important take that society needs at the minute. Like, it's been a rough year, and we need to start setting things right by talking about fairly middle of the line teen comedies.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. We have our finger on the pulse, and right now people are saying, what did Ross, Sam and Dave think of Mean Girls? It's been 17 years.
Before we attack the very nature of our having a podcast, which is already pretty shaky, and I'm not feeling good about it on the best of days.
It's a very good reason we have a podcast, Sam. What it means is we've reduced our friendship down to a business arrangement, essentially. We make appointments.
Clinical.
Everything's recorded for posterity. It's very clinical. I don't have to fucking talk to you guys at all the time. I don't have to try and play a video game. Yeah. We watch a movie. We do some homework. We talk about it. Friendship achieved.
Friendship monetized. That's what it is. So,
you guys getting paid?
I was going to say, when's my check coming?
Later, soon. So in Mean Girls,
I promise.
Katie Heron. Katie Heron is.
It's not funny.
It is.
First time and less funny every subsequent time.
Katie Heron is.
I didn't even realize you were making a joke. Sorry, go on, Sam.
In the movie, Ross. The joke in the movie.
No, I got that. Go on, Sam.
Right, I'll get it out. Katie Heron is a hit with the plastics, the A-list girl clique at her new school, until she makes a mistake of falling for Aaron Samuels, the ex-boyfriend of Alpha Plastic, Regina George. So that's the basic summary of the film. it's a Tina Fey written movie directed by Mark Waters. We all love Tina Fey. I think she's one of the best probably writers of like TV that's come out in the last 20 years probably. I mean, things like 30, obviously SNL, although I never really watched that, but 30 Rock is one of my favorite shows, and I think this is in terms of the writing, it's brilliant. It's a really, really witty movie. The rest of it, there's things to be said, but
for me, it feels like this movie feels quite toothless. In a way that we watched Heathers. Obviously, you missed that episode, Ross. Probably good call on that one. We watched Heathers a few weeks ago, and like that movie has a lot in common with this, but it's kind of going all out, and everyone's smoking and fucking, and like it's a bit more sharp. I'm not saying it's good, but bear with me here. Whereas this movie is very much like they were trying to slip into that PG rating, so no one's really saying the word sex. No one's really saying, there's lots of. It's very aggressive, but we're using like other words for these adult things, kid gloves, and also like the somehow the need for like a happy ending. The ending we'll get into was for me like the weakest part of this movie.
Yeah, go on, Ross.
Well, I was just going to say, you guys mentioned the writing, and I'd agree that the writing is quite sharp, but it just feels, Dave mentioned toothless, and it felt like a movie by numbers for me. And just watching, new girl, popular kids, befriends them, betrays them, and like Dave said, there's a happy ending, right at the end, and I just felt like all the way through, it just felt so drawn out. Do you know what I mean? I felt like I had to stop myself from falling asleep twice when I was trying to watch it. I had to watch the ending again because, oh no, surely I missed something here. Everything's wrapped up. No. We're going straight from.
And they all drank lemonade, and they were happy forever.
It just
your comparison to Heathers is quite a good one. Now, I did not enjoy watching that film. Like that was like oh god, there's so much long. But it's At least though, it had like an opinion about things. Whereas this, as you say, it feels a bit bland. It feels like they kind of they focused too much on the jokes and the lines in it. And there's a reason that there's so many memes. It's because there are just tons and tons of funny lines. Like you can tell it's written by a sketch writer, and who would then go on and write a 20-minute comedy like. Based on the fact that she wrote sketches, like there's all that experience really there.
Good individual jokes and there's some really funny bits. I'm sure we'll get into it. We'll talk through the film a bit more. But unlike Heathers, Heathers has something to say and it's like aggressive in its pursuit of saying it. Whereas this film, as you say at the end, it just goes, that's fine. Like, we're not going to pursue it any further.
They went, and that's 90 minutes. Okay, get out of the cinema.
By the way, 97 minutes this movie. Oh, perfect.
Disgusting. 7 minutes over time.
7 minutes over, but my God, is it nice to do a short movie.
We're joking. When I pressed play on this, I was like, okay, a minute 36. Sorry, Dave, minute 37. Okay, you've bought yourself some credit so far. Let's see what you do with it.
All right. I'm listening for exactly 90 minutes, but that's it. Not a second longer.
Yeah. Genuinely, I was like, okay, less than 2 hours. Game on.
Well done. So the starting point for this, and I think this is a good nugget of an idea, which is that what would happen if a kid who had never been at school, she's 16 or whatever she is, never been at school, like went to school. And so that as a concept, I think is really fun. And I quite liked the beginning of this film. I liked the beginning way, way more than the rest of it.
Yeah. So the kind of the thing, the thing, Katie. I'm just going to say Katie, and that's just going to be how it is.
Is it not Caddy?
I can't say Caddy. It just sounds wrong.
It's Katie.
Katie. So Katie is our main character.
That name's too difficult to pronounce. I'm just going to call you something else.
Just doesn't feel right. So Lindsay Lohan in this, she plays the main character, and basically she's not. They could have gone several directions. The reason she hasn't been to school is because her parents were like wildlife scientists in Africa. So she was in Africa, with this skin and somehow doesn't look like a handbag. So she was in Africa, and then they come back to the US, and then she gets to go to school. So it's kind of like there's a nice, I'm sure it's what you were leading up to, Sam. There's a really cool, like, which one's the real jungle? The jungle or high school? And that's kind of like a nice, but we drop that after about half an hour, I think. There's some really cool, like, sound effects. Really good Foley.
They hit you over the head with it, then they drop it.
Yeah, and largely by these like scenes where the kids transport into animals. They just become, and they're like howling and monkey arms. Really fun, like really funny, and I love it when they go back into it. But again, they do drop that until right at the very end.
It felt very reminiscent of Scrubs, when he does those like fantasy cutaways.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you come back, yeah.
Totally.
And the janitor from Scrubs is in this. He plays the dad, Neil Flynn.
That's the thing. I pressed play again. Amy was in the room, and I pressed play. I was like, "Oh, I didn't know he was in it." And she goes, "Yeah, he's in it for like 40 seconds." Like, fuck.
Yeah, he has like 4 lines and one facial expression. It's like
just casual dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's moving from homeschooling and into, and we do get some funny lines about her being like, everyone calls her Africa for a start, and obviously she doesn't look
amazingly funny. I really, really did make me laugh. Where Tina Fey plays. She not only wrote this, she plays the teacher in it. Yeah. And I think Tina Fey is a really good actor. I think she elevates pretty much anything she's in. I've seen some really bad films, but Tina Fey's in it, and I've enjoyed her in it. And she's like in this movie. And so Katie Lindsay Lohan plays she's in the classroom, and there's a new kid. They're from Africa, and she's like, and she starts talking like she's speaking to a foreigner, to this black girl who's sat in the classroom. She's like, "Hello, welcome to our classroom." And she's like, "I've been here for 5 years."
She says, "I'm from Michigan."
It was like, I texted you guys watching that. I was like, okay. I laughed a bit harder than I probably should have at that. And I'm going to hold my hands up. That was okay.
I don't think it's a questionable joke. I think it's a joke about
good observation about
Tina
expectations,
Fey's
and it's a well-timed joke. And again, comedy is timing, and this movie does that well. I think, like, when it delivers a joke, it's funny and it lands.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was a really funny joke. However, they milk that several times, like within the space of 20 minutes after that. There was one point where she was in the cafeteria. Katie is walking towards it. She walks past this desk, picnic bench, whatever they call it, and had like, a group of black students at it. And then she greets them in what I assume is like something like Swahili or, a South African language. And I'm like, oof, that is a bit. And then,
that is a weird joke, Ross, because it's odd, because this girl's lived in Africa for her entire life. She comes over, and it's that she sees somebody sat at the table who looks a bit like someone she knew in Africa. So she like shouts the name out. It's like, "Oh, hi!" And then it takes her way too long to realize this is not somebody she knows. And it's like,
I didn't even think she knew that. I thought she
grew up in Africa. Not.
She's saying it because she thinks that they're also going to speak whatever language that she's speaking in that they spoke in Africa. Like, I think that's
two different scenes.
I don't know, but either way, it's a good introduction to, like, I think it's my favorite part of the film is this fish out of water thing of her going into high school and having to figure out all of the dynamics of, like, what
you love a good fish out of water story, Sam.
I do.
He does it for him.
There's a bit in there, and it's like they talk. Because there's a voiceover in this, which we can talk about a bit as well. But she's, I've grew up not being controlled by adults, and like she tries to go for a piss. And,
that was.
And the
good.
teacher, and this is the total thing of like, so children have to ask to urinate. Like, we're talking about probably the most base
and
function.
The teachers can say no. No, I don't think so, love. Sit down.
She's like, nice try, sit down. It's like, well, so what's she going to do then? Just piss herself in the fucking seat? Like, it's
America.
And England and Wales and Scotland and Ireland.
And Ireland
as well. Like, it's insane. But there's all these things, and it's like she's just not used to being controlled and saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to wear this, you can't wear that, because she's had this, free roam life in they never say which African country she's in. I don't think it's always just Africa, which is like saying
that
Europe.
To not be not be
Bit more
super
specific,
clear.
please.
Well, because this is targeted at like teenagers and American teenagers at that.
Yeah.
So like Africa's fine. That's all the information
They're not
they
going
need
to really
and
care about
can
the
cope with.
socioeconomic.
Yeah.
South Africa very different to Zimbabwe though. There is a
Oh yeah.
So this start of the film I think is great, and it was really engaging, and I was like, great, this is going to be a fun exploration of this girl's like attempt to navigate through high school. And then we start to kind of move away from that theme a little bit when we get into the stuff with Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, so we'll get into the plastics in a minute. Let's sort of like break down this opening bit a bit more, because like this is where we establish most of our like high school teen movie tropes. We talked in 10 Things I Hate About You about those are the stoners, because what's his face? Robin. It's not Robin, but the guy who played Robin. The actor in 10 Things I Hate About You is in the same situation. He's a new kid at the school, so we get like those are the stoners and those are the white rastas or whatever the joke is in that movie. And we kind of get the same thing. Yeah, the urban cowboys, interesting. We kind of get the same thing in this movie, but it's kind of like it's not played for laughs as much as like it's just an established fact of this universe is that you've got like, oh, and those are the plastics. And Heathers again is a good sort of again tropey thing where it's these three girls are like they're the most popular girls in school and they kind of run everything, and it's again impossible to know how much this is based on truth, probably not, and how much this is just like self-perpetuated like Hollywood myth built up by John Hughes.
Well, it is based on very, very loosely based on a self-help book by Rosalind Wiseman, and it's called Queen Bees and Wannabes, and there's a line in this film where they talk about she's the queen bee, and basically it's like, I think it's help your daughter survive cliques, gossip, boyfriends, and other realities of adolescence. So there's a source material here of like how, the horrible shit that teenage girls get up to and boys, but like this is the focus on girls. And I also think then that was kind of taken as like this is the starting point, and then built on by Tina Fey.
Well, I think the fact that it's girls is important because men are very stupid. So, like, a movie about men and the high school politics of boys would not be as interesting because it would just be, like, really aggressive and fighty, We've got a fight club for
bring in their Game Boys and trade Pokemon. That's
long periods of just nothing, just boring... not even conversation. That's how most of our growing up was.
Long conversations of squinting at things to make it look like boobs.
Oh, this with controller. Yeah, cool. Cheers. Thanks.
Absolutely. Not engaging, It's like listening to this podcast. No one wants that.
No. But so that's the starting point. And then, as I said, Tina Fey's built on it. And I do like the richness. I do like the richness of the cliques and of the different kind of the kind of landscape, the tapestry that they managed to create in this, I think is really fun, and you kind of get a lot out of that. But when they start to plug in the plot, that's where it starts to get a bit bogged down, and it's trickier.
It is, and it's what it is usually like, and we talk about movies a lot with this, is it kind of suffers at the hands of its own premise. Of like the premise is quite interesting, but I don't know how you would make a 90-minute movie just about her like navigating the difficulties of high school without one big centralized plot. And in this movie, the centralized plot is kind of like it's hard to nail down, but essentially it's her being one of the popular girls, and
let's ruin this,
and because it goes into that, it kind of like. And it doesn't have a clear message. We've talked about this. Like, it doesn't have a clear idea of what it's trying to say other than, isn't this funny? And I think that's the weakest point, is like, it's not trying to say, we should all, get along, although it does literally say that, but it's not trying to say that. That's not the theme of the movie. And like, it's not trying to say anything noteworthy, whereas it should pick a lane. It should be like, right, and she learns that she should spend time with her friends and fuck everyone else, and not like, and everyone was suddenly they put drugs in the water and everyone was fine, like the ending of this movie.
It feels like this movie, I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit here, but I feel like this movie would have been better suited as like a TV series, like Saved by the Bell-esque, getting on with the cliques, destroying the cliques, getting up to these weekly hijinks, the fantasy cutaways. It seems like it's Scrubs but for younger teenagers. And just as a movie for me, doesn't work.
And that makes sense, doesn't it, with who we've got, involved in this. So I guess like a starting point is maybe the different cliques, because we've got like I think it's Damien and Janice. I love the character Damien, by the way. I think it's hilarious. Some of his line reads I think are great. But those are the two that kind of take on Lindsay Lohan's character, Katie, and like bring her into the flock and say it's okay, come sit with us, and this is how you navigate the things, and she's a popular kid, and blah blah blah. So like that's the starting point for Katie, and then I guess the kind of arc of the story is her moving away from that because she is trying to ingratiate herself with the plastics. So, and this is where we're like, it's already complicated. So she can get one over Rachel McAdams' character because she used to go out with a boy that Katie likes but doesn't anymore, but they're not allowed to go out with any. And you're just like, okay, I'm a little bit lost, to be honest. Why are you doing this?
This is where it lost me as well, because I could understand. Usually in a teen movie, it's they befriend them, and then the popular clique, makes a fool of them, embarrass them in public, some shit like that. So far, she's done nothing to them. Do you know what I mean? She's done nothing, and then Katie's a bit of a bitch. She just turns on her like that, and it's like, oh well, you've done this thing before we've even met. I must end you. And then this is how the whole, revenge plan starts. The
kind of setup for that is, so she's like, the nugget here is Lindsay Lohan's attractive, so that's like the reason that these popular girls want her to be in their gang, is because like, oh, that's one sexy bitch, let's get her with us and we can all be sexy bitches together. The movie is telling you this so much. We'll talk about the over-sexualization of teenagers, I'm sure.
We're going to touch on that.
She gets in the gang and basically like she doesn't know what to think. She kind of knows these art kids and they're nice, and these people, they seem all right and they're pleasant, but it's different. Like there's a their own unique sort of high school politics going on that Lindsay Lohan does not understand. So she gets to know them. She likes this boy because he's really dreamy. That's as far as that goes for now. And then essentially learns like, oh, you can't go out with him because he went out with her, and that's like, that's the code. You can't, anyway. And then what happens is she, being an honest person, expecting everyone else to be honest and forthright, talks to Regina, says, I really like this boy, and Regina goes, oh, you go for it. But what she does is use that to get back with her boyfriend, seemingly just to piss off Lindsay Lohan. And then that is the setup for like, right, now we have to take this bitch down.
Now, to be fair to the film, that sounds pretty realistic. Like, it does sound like a thing that would happen. And not being a teenage girl, and in fact, never being a teenage girl, quite hard for me to like pin that. But that it's from all the media that I've been instructed by, it sounds like a fairly realistic thing. But what I think it doesn't really connect with Katie's character, who seems like number one, she's dead smart. She's really, which I think is a great choice. Like she's not vapid. She's really clever, and there's a great like through line in this of her being really good at maths and wanting to join the mathletes, but not being allowed to because of the social status.
Americans are so weird.
I know.
Clubs at school, fine. I think there was a chess club at my school.
Lucky. I see. This is the thing. Through my, like Sam, through my exposure to American media, like when you hear things like chess club, I would have loved to join chess club. I really like chess. Debate club. Oh my God, I would fucking love debate club.
Whatever it is, I'll debate it.
Yeah, fuck you.
Debate club. It's a club you debate with.
Yes.
Beat them.
I would be all over that.
But ultimately, clubs at school are shit. But like the mathletes is kind of like I think Americans are into stuff like that and spelling bees, like all of this, like it's not even intellectual, all of this like competitive, like scholastic stuff that ultimately should not be competitive. We're going to maths you. We're going to out maths you. You don't even know how mathsy we're going to get.
We're
going to have
you.
Math your mum.
I'm going to.
Excellent. But
Ross,
for Kate,
we can only calculate pi to within 465 digits. Your mum is so big.
Brilliant. You guys should join Math Club. But it's a good. But all that stuff works. Like it works as like this is what you should be doing. You should use. But then they don't really give me any reason that she's not doing that. Like the fact that she likes a boy a bit. You know, she's spoken to him like 3 times. You know, the whole thing. Again, it might be realistic, but it's a very, very, it's a core plank of this movie, and then they just don't really give us enough, I don't think, to justify all of the other crazy shit, like putting feet cream in her moisturizer, so her face smells like peppermint, and like doing all that, giving her the bars that make her really fat and put on all the weight. It's just like.
I was going to wait till we came across it, but I'm glad you brought that up now, Sam. There's some really fucked up shit that Katie does, and she's supposed to be the hero, which fair enough. You know, you're going to pull pranks. You know, we've all seen Van Wilder in American Pie. You're going to pull pranks on the dickhead and turn them out to be fools. This, I don't know what the term is, but surely this is some form of, like, if not maybe poisoning is a bit too far, but there's some sort of it's illegal. Surely, do you know what I mean? Like feeding someone so they gain mass, against their will. It's force feeding.
I would say, Ross, and
if she was going to be 4 fucking gra, wouldn't it?
I know, but hear me out here. Like, I see what you mean. But I do think kids, teenagers especially, are absolutely more capable than adults of that kind of sociopathy. Like, I genuinely believe. I went to school. There was some like incidents at school with like various kids, and like kids are fucking horrible to each other when they want to be for almost no reason. So that kind of like the vindictiveness that's going on here, because when you're a teenager, everything is the biggest, most important thing that could ever possibly be. Everything is like high drama because you've got all these hormones rushing around your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
go on, Russ.
I was going to say, but it doesn't excuse, I don't know about your high school, Dave, but we never got to a point where we were fucking force feeding someone, you know, or, you know, feeding them anorexia fucking sorry, maybe that's the wrong. Definitely
only on Fridays.
I don't use any medication called anorexia pills. But, you know,
it's the same principle.
Ross, are they causing anorexia or treating anorexia? I'm really unclear.
Mantis Toboggan, MD. but like,
in terms of that vindictiveness, though, like that does again, it feels real, and it feels like it's an accurate reflection. We get to see lots of it in the Burn book, which is a book that the Plastics have written, that basically has like a picture of almost every single girl in school, and with something nasty, you know, written next to them.
I actually love that. I love that bit. I was like, good.
It's very funny.
Good.
It's good setup and payoff as well, because we get to see that, like, you get to see them writing it. Like, I think Janice is, you know, just dyke, and then that's all they go for.
Some of them are funnier than others.
Yeah. Later on,
I would love David to be in that room just being the catty bitch. Oh, you think that's an insult? You whore.
You think that's funny? Come on, we can do better than this, ladies.
Try again. But later on, that gets revealed, and then we all, you know, everyone gets to read it, which is amazing. Like, so that's really cool. And again, it probably does feel like this is high school, or this is a version of high school that we never experienced, at least.
But yeah, it feels like, again, though, from the film's point of view, and what you guys have said as well, like the only reason Katie is doing these things is kind of because she's doing these things. Like,
yeah.
So the big sort of trailer scene here is when she rushes over to her cool friends, whose names someone will remind me of, Damien and the other one. And she says, "Oh, she's Janice, thank you. Regina's done this horrible thing, blah 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 blah." And they have the plan, and I do quite like a chalkboard scene. It's not the best, but they have like, you have some funny lines, again, noteworthy lines. You know, oh, what do you do? We have to strip her of an army of skanks, which just always gets a laugh out of me. And like the various plans is, right, we need to make her ugly, we need to take away all of her friends, and we need to make everyone hate her. Like, that's what we need to do. Why doesn't everyone already hate this woman who terrorizes them, by the way? That's just a little aside.
Very good point, Dave. And maybe because she's not that big of a bitch. Yeah, sure. She's a teenager, and she's popular, so she's going to be a bitch to some people. Maybe she isn't the fucking colossal, antagonist that she's made out to be.
And that could be the culmination of this. Could be that Regina is revealed to be a human person. That could be like the culmination of this movie, is that Lindsay Lohan realizes that because she is quite horrible in parts of this movie, and like that should be the arc. It should be the realization that like, oh my god, I'm a horrible bitch, and this poor girl who maybe was a bit rude and maybe is like a bit conceited has done far less horrible things than I've done.
And because she gets rejected from the group eventually when she's not wearing the right clothes on a certain day or whatever it is, she gets rejected from the group. So it shows that it's the system in place, like that they've created, yes, but now has taken on a life of its own. I have to say, I do absolutely love Rachel McAdams in this. I think this is a phenomenal piece of acting. Like, she is so.
Do you know what's impressive? She is 7 or 8 years older than all of the rest of the main cast of this movie, and you wouldn't know it. I think she was in her mid-20s when they filmed this, and everyone else is 18 or 19.
Yeah,
like
it is top quality. The way that she manages, like the bit when she says, "Oh, that's a lovely bracelet you've got," which ends up being like, her way of going, "That's disgusting."
Yeah.
All of that, like that fake kind of niceness, which then is transported into the venom, I think is brilliant. Big year for her though, because she was in this film and she was in The Notebook.
Wow,
which is like, Rachel McAdams is killing it in 2004. She's on fire. But I love every scene she's in. She takes over completely, and you're like, I just want to watch what she's doing.
Yeah, we should also mention while we're talking about her, her mum is played by Amy Poehler. I love her commitment to this fucking horrible mother character who's like totally like dominated by this daughter. Mum, get out, go and do your hair. And she's like, okay.
Oh, you keep me young.
I just love you girls.
The fake tits jokes. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Really made me laugh.
But that's where we go back to, these people are highly experienced improv artists. Like, they know how to deliver lines. They are comedy through and through, and then when we get those line deliveries and the overacting and the real stuff that could be quite risky in another movie, we get it from Tim Meadows. We get it from Tina Fey. The coach. Some of the coach's lines. And he's like,
the coach, by the way, who's a diddler. The coach who is a nonce.
Yes, that's a pedophile. Yeah.
Not the actor, Ross. You're doing a face. Sorry, the character in this movie. He goes on the lam.
I know this is real life. I know. I can separate real life and movie land. Thank you.
I'm just checking. It was like the on the video feed. It was Ross's like, oh my god, reaction, and I was like, he knows I'm not talking about the actor, right?
It was just that, like, I forgot that I saw that. I was like, oh shit, yeah. I was like, that was downplayed quite a lot.
Yes.
The movie is not interested in addressing that as a serious thing that's happening.
No.
What it is it's used for a laugh.
The two girls fight over him like they're.
It's used as a way to make Tina Fey's character, the accusation placed against her, it's used to make that accusation more plausible, which on one hand is clever, but the other hand is, you've got a fucking paedophile in this story.
In this charming kids movie, yeah.
You really need to
come up
again, but it's tonal, and that's what I'm saying about this, like, that joke would be funnier in a film for adults, like, and they would make more of a joke of it. And do you know what I mean? You can make that funny, but this movie is kind of like, hey,
it is it is quite funny. Like the way that they do it is there is humor there.
You can make jokes about serious things and it be funny without, do you know what I mean? Without being like a cheap shot at those things.
But we need to see this guy in prison. Like, we need to see him
being
arrested.
And
we don't get to see that. It's like,
he's
gone now. He's
the
gone off
warden
to a
from
state.
Shawshank scene. You know, like right, you lock the door and blow my head off.
Oh my god, that would
twice
be
in a week. We've talked about
awesome
that. I'm sure.
to see. That would be awesome to see. Just like complete tonal change where this guy gets bludgeoned severely, and then it's like, oh my god, he's so pretty. Just this guy's getting his shit knocked.
Well, it does feel like a series of sketches, doesn't it? So maybe that would just slot in and slot out. We wouldn't really notice. We'd be like, what? Yeah. And then we just on to the next bit. So
whatever happened to the coach? And he's like hanging by a belt.
Yeah. That's actually, that would be hilarious.
That would be again funny. Like you could make that funny. You could put it in this movie and it'd be funny, but like they don't. They kind of shy away from any. There's no consequences in this movie for any action.
Yeah.
Although they try to do that when Regina gets hit by the bus, which really
Let's hold. We'll come to that in a second because while we're on sexual exploitation of teenagers,
let's
talk about.
All right, Sam, you've got my interest peaked.
There we go. It's not just this film. It's not just this film. It's also like just Hollywood in general. We as a society, to be clear, sexy teenagers.
We love sexy teenagers. The sexier, the better.
What is going on with
dude? Do you know what it is? I think and this movie, I think, is maybe the most egregious example of because these girls do not dress like 15, 16-year-olds. They dress like, sexy 20-year-olds.
Which they mostly are, or the actors mostly over 18.
The most egregious scene in the entire movie is obviously, and I want to address it in a bit more detail, is the Santa sort of song they sing. Yeah. Yep. Now, your parents are watching this. Only Katie's parents are like, oh my fucking lord, why is our daughter dressed like a streetwalker with her friends? Giving half the room an erection. This is not okay.
I love your mic control there. I loved your mic control there, Dave. That was beautiful. Your parents. Like it was.
Let me set the scene.
But that's actually not the most disturbing thing about that scene.
Go on, Ross. Go on,
it gets worse.
Well, go on, Dave. Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, it's established that these three girls have done this multiple years in a row. They're 16 now.
It gets a little easier every time.
How long have they been doing the sexy, sexy dance in the latex miniskirts?
Kindergarten.
America, you got problems, man. This is real child pageant fucking smack.
Well, I was going to say, you've seen child pageant shows. It's fucking insane. But all I was going to say was, just to add to your point, Dave, because as a dad, I don't have a daughter, but I can only imagine, this was one of my main fears if I had a daughter and, dressed like that. And I'm like, just imagine being there and you're like, oh, she's in the school play. This is going to be adorable. She's just joined new school. She's made friends. She's going to be in this performance. Oh my God, this is going to be great. The main event. Fantastic. Curtained up. What the fuck is that? just dadding your way through the auditorium. Get the fuck out of my way. The fuck do you think's going on?
What are you doing? Put some clothes on.
But
drop kick the stage manager.
But it runs through the whole movie. As you said, Dave, Lindsay Lohan's character is sexy. She is supposed to, and that's why she gets in, because she's hot. And again, she's an 18-year-old woman, so it's not like the film is literally sexualizing a minor, but we're told all the time, and you see this in so many movies. It's just countless where the very clear and barefaced intention is that these teenagers, and even sometimes we're looking at really early teens, and you're thinking, fucking hell, as we do in the last shot of this movie with the new plastics, who are, really, really much younger, dressed up in the same mini skirts, and they're strutting along.
The pastel colours.
And you're like, I don't want to look at this, please. I don't want to talk to a teenager. Never mind.
We haven't really mentioned Lindsay Lohan, and obviously this is kind of like the zenith of her career was around this time. And she was a child actress. And obviously that's horrible, because I don't know if you've seen photos of Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, I know.
Recently.
It's been
she's had a really rough couple of decades, loads of drug problems, loads of police issues, largely because of the fact that she's been sexualized since she was 11 years old by Hollywood, and it's really fucking rough. And it's hard to watch this movie and not think like, please someone help this poor girl.
Can I? You know how bad it is that she has. When you go to personal life on Wikipedia, she has an entire page just for her personal life. Like it subs off into an entire page. It's never a good sign. Like, and I think you're right that the Lindsay Lohan movies that we've seen. There's Freaky Friday. There is the Parent Trap remake.
Yep.
Which is great. She's brilliant. Like she's and in this as well. She's so engaging, and I think it's not quite as good when she's being a plastic, but earlier on, she's like really likable.
It's a good performance. She's obviously
fun.
like a professional actor, you know.
This was, I think, number 11 in the New Yorker's very list of top performances of the 21st century. I think, which seems a bit of a stretch. Like, it's a good performance, but let's maybe not go crazy with that. But I think it is a real shame we've seen this, and you can't take away the impact of being this sexualized, especially when you're young. Even at 18, you're not really an adult, are you? You still have no idea what's going on. And I think it's I do think
I'm
it's something
I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's something we need to sort out, and we need to stop these portrayals, because otherwise it's just gonna, like, imagine being a kid and watching this as well, thinking that's who I need to be. It's not.
We have this problem with teen movies a lot, where like, teens obviously are getting up to like lots of sexual stuff, and so it feels right to have it in the movie, but then it becomes problematic when in a movie like this, I think there are lots of moments where it's like, how sexy can we make these kids? It's not like, it doesn't feel real,
I think that's an extremely well put point, Dave. And what you want to think about as well is that, when you're teenagers, you're horny as shit. You're trying to hump anything that moves. But
God, and random erections for no reason at the worst times.
Yeah,
being a teenager was the worst.
Let's put a pin in that.
Dave, you are on the internet, just to make sure you remember. Yeah, just okay. That's fine.
I realised that. I'm sorry to inform the internet that teenage boys get random erections for absolutely no reason. I'm sorry if that's.
And we are now on the FBI's watch list.
We
are now on a watch
let's move
list.
on.
It's a weird thing to point out. Oh, we are online, Dave. You can't say things like erection online.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
I'm the prude police. You can't say that.
Why is the prude police English? Anyway, what I was going to say
was... The prude police are definitely English. I'm sorry, but that's just...
Yeah, fair point. But, so what I was saying is, teenagers, they're going to try and hump stuff. But, and that's my point, is that they're not going to be stuff. They're not going to be as coordinated or
sexy
as
looking armoire. Sorry, Ross, go on. I'll stop.
I'm just waiting for you to get out of your system. What I'm saying is they're not going to be as coordinated or as suave or as even as charming as they're portrayed in movies, because that's all so smooth. But like Sam said earlier as well, like, young kids are watching this and like, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to emulate. And then I am popular. Then I am sexy. Then I'm attractive. Then I'm successful.
Yeah. In a movie though, it's you are right, Ross, and it's like, I think it's sending the wrong message. In a movie, it's heightened reality, and we as an adult understand that, like, that's a core point of movie making. Because if we were watching normal-looking people do normal everyday things, it'd be dull as shit, and there'd be far too much time spent in toilets, to be honest. And like, so you remove all of that, you strip all of that out for movies, because it's this heightened reality. No one ever uses the bathroom. Everyone always looks immaculate. Like, clothes are tailored for everyone. But again, it's just kind of this heightened reality. And this movie very much is that, where, it's very bright, it's very glamorous, and it's very like, again, these teenagers aren't only really, really sexy, just in case you'd forgotten, because this movie really wants you to know these teenagers are sexy. They're also really accomplished. Like, they've got more confidence than a 45 tech billionaire, and you are right. And they're really accomplished, and there's none of that awkwardness that absolutely every teenager has.
Yeah.
One of the other scenes that we get sexualized to move along the plot a bit is the Halloween thing, and it is funny because they kind of like point it out and shine a light on it. that says, Halloween for teenage girls is wear lingerie and put bunny ears or put some kind of animal ear on top of whatever you want, and that's it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
And and that works, except obviously Katie doesn't know that, so she turns up as an ex-wife who's a in a wedding dress,
teeth, fucking,
but like a zombie. Yeah, so it's just a funny.
It's a really committed costume. I was really like, somebody put some thought into this, and the costume designers.
But she's the only one who's dressed like that because she's just dressing up in Halloween clothes, like almost like a child would, like in terms of just getting
having fun with it.
Yeah, and that's where we see Regina's like retaliation for the fact that Katie likes Aaron. Trying to keep up with this sound, it's like high school just talking about it. So then Katie
Sam said that Dave said that Ross said.
Well, I think we can all agree we're exactly as sexy as these teenagers. I mean, that's obviously a given. That's just
of course.
A curse.
and that's where the treachery really starts to
manifest,
kind of go, and all of the horrible things like making her gain weight with the nutrition bars and slowly turning all of the other plastics against Regina to kind of like ruin her standing. But what we also get in at this point, which I'll let you two talk about, is the turn where Katie becomes a plastic and rejects Janice and Damien a bit, which I think is a important point in the film.
It is an important point in the film. Like I said, it's the kind of, but it should come later. I feel like it's too early for Katie to realize that she's a horrible bitch and that she's been a horrible bitch to everybody. Like that should be kind of like not deathbed, but like it should be the movie's deathbed. This should be like the final act. Like, oh my god, I'm a horrible individual. I should kill myself. No, less suicide in movies generally, but it should be like that realization and that apology and that kind of like mending fences with Damien and Janice should be the emotional like through line of the movie, rather than what we get, which is that she realizes she's an arsehole quite, at this party.
I disagree, Dave. I don't think it came too early. I mean, for me, I didn't notice it until it was too late. The gradual thing, and that's maybe it's either a good thing because they did it really well, or a bad thing because I wasn't paying attention. But I thought it was so gradual that by the time the process of play was like, oh shit, and there were sort of like hints at that throughout the movie up until that point. I don't think it came too early. I just think the third act was fucking long. And I think that was the worst part of it for me.
Yeah, we joke. Because you want the movie to get out of there. She's been horrible. You've had all your tropes. You've had all of that. You've had your really sexy dance number. Like you've had everything, and she's had the house party. The house party is the big like. This is fucking what people are tuning in for. It's high school shenanigans. We're having a party because the parents are away. Like it feels like this should be very close to the end of the movie. So maybe I'm not saying that it's not a good point. I'm not saying they don't earn it and do the turn of her being horrible well, Ross. I do think it's plotted well. I just think there's too much movie left to go for this to be like, before this to be revealed. But I would agree that generally, like I think again, like it's easy to understand her progress from, she's a nice girl who's trying to get her own back on this other girl to she is like the arch evil person in this high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very much so. Very much so.
And it's a good. I think it does progress though into the apology scene where basically all of this has been revealed. Regina has spread these papers, the photocopies of the burn book, and claimed that the other plastics are the ones who were in it because they're the only ones who don't have an entry,
who aren't listed.
Yeah. So that like and then we get some beautiful I think direction. This is great, and just how fun it is everyone just having a massive rammy, just beating the shit out and screaming at each other. And you said it, and it's that to me was probably the funniest scene in the whole film. Like it was just hilarious. And then the best bit.
I know what you're gonna say.
Is when the principal walks out and he's got a baseball bat. I'm just thinking, what does he expect them to do with that? Like he's got his baseball net.
He is going to lay some bitches open with his baseball bat.
His line, because he's breaking people up, and there was one girl like hung up by her coat like on a door, and he goes to help her down, and she like swings her leg at him, and that's when he brings out like the baseball. Oh, I don't know, I didn't come from Southside to deal with this shit. And, like bangs the fire alarm. I love it.
It's a great reading from Tim Meadows. It really is. It's excellent.
Because you get the feeling then that he, you get a little peek like, oh, this guy, he's a bit, rough and tumble. He's got a bit of a mean streak in him. Loved it.
There was, I don't know, man. I think there's some really good comedy bits in this. We hadn't really mentioned like a part of the plan to get back at Regina was to break her up with Aaron, the sexy boy. And one of the ways that they do that is Damien puts on a mask, and it's like, dude, you're the only person we've seen in this entire movie who looks like he has the same has that shape. So like he runs down the hallway with this mask, grabs the handbag, and Aaron chases him, and then that's when they find the coach fucking being a paedophile, by the way. And that's all fine and hilarious. But the actual like chase, really funny. And when they stop and he takes the mask off and they're both just stood watching.
It is.
That made me
important to note, neither of them reported him then. This didn't come out. No. Him being a paedophile didn't come out until the burn book was distributed.
And everyone knew because it was in the burn book.
Yeah, because it's played for laughs, and that's again, the film is not going there. It's not touching that. It's just going to use it for comedy. That's all it's going to do. Yeah. It's all it's going to do. I quite like the apology scene though. I like the bit when again the principal has a go, and the first was like, has anyone got any questions or anything they want to say? And he's like, I can't remember, something like I have a wide set vagina or something like that, and immediately the principal's like, nope, there we go, Tina Fey, thank you, you can take this one.
Just tapped out.
I'm not a whore, I just have a wide set vagina and a heavy flow, and he's like, you know what, I'm good, you deal with this,
I'm outside my wheelhouse, so I'm gonna hand it over.
100% the reaction.
Why couldn't it have been a boy riot? Why couldn't the boys have rioted? Detention.
You know what, Sam? There was something you said, Sam, like in our WhatsApp message discussing this, and it was before I watched it, but I think you hit the nail on the head as well when you said that all the adult, character lines are very, true to life. I think is how you said it essentially, because it is how real world adults would react to this. The teenagers are trying to kick him off. Fuck this, and then I've got a wide set vagina. Nope, not my table.
And what's funny, like increasingly as I get older, like I spent the whole time watching this relating to the adults way more than I related to the kids, which is utterly pathetic because I'm old and decrepit now. But it's like I'm completely
thinking, Neil Flynn and Neil Flynn's wife, you need to sort this out because you are this absentee parenting that they are terrible parents. In Africa was very, very poor.
I can't wait, Sam, for you to get to the age and you're like at Star Wars, like, you know what? The Empire had some pretty good points. Just saying.
No, you see, Ross, we only get more right wing if we begin to be wealthier. And as we're all getting poorer by the second, never going to happen. It's all fine.
If you would like to see a more right wing podcast, please donate to our Patreon.
You can actively see our
Trump 2024.
I'll start wearing a top hat to the podcast if
I think £100 based on our desperateness, £100 would get us to full Republican.
You've got Ben Shapiro on this podcast if we get £100.
100 quid, that's it. That's all we need. Please.
You will have a Rush Limbaugh.
Cost us money and then we'll become more left wing. So if that's what you want, you can do that too.
Is that what you want? You lefty snowflakes.
So getting back to this movie, we have a scene after this where we have and this is again like another comedy scene in the gym where Tina Fey's character is basically like, right, we need to basically like squash all these beefs. We need to, we're all women and we need to support each other. And like, how are we going to do this? They all get up on the stage and they say a truth, and then they fall and all the girls catch them. And, it's, I don't know, man, like this is a bit you're all
very American.
Do you know what? In this country, you're all in detention. All of your parents will be informed. That's it. Well, that's the end of it.
Dave, I'll go one further. Even if it got to that point, like, let's do the exercise. No child is fucking catching them. No one's going to fall back because they know everyone's going to let everyone drop. You wouldn't even get that far.
You would really have to be quite confident in your own popularity to be like, oh, I'm going to crack my skull open on this floor because all of these fuckers are assholes.
Or have the genetics of a cat. So, like, just before you turn, land on your feet.
But it's a fun scene of like again, what the movie's doing is trying to have like the build towards this like happier, nicer. This is the contrition portion, really, isn't it?
Sort of thing.
For Katie, it's the contrition portion of the movie where she feels guilty because she's been horrible and she must, join them athletes and wear a really ugly jumper and embarrass this other school to like make amends, and the gym scene is that thing. Again, another mention in this gym scene of like, obviously when it turned out the allegations against the coach were absolutely true. Again, moving on, we're fine.
Next.
Yeah. We're not going to touch that. We're okay. We're fine. We're not going to go to that. There's one thing that I noticed in this, and I think it's in this scene, and there's lots of quite inclusive uses of like people in wheelchairs and stuff, which I think is quite nice. Like it's quite rare that you see that in films where we're going to have people with disabilities actually just portrayed as like normal characters, and there's not there's not really like a joke bit. I'm trying to remember if I think there's a girl who's is in a wheelchair and she falls backwards, I think, and I don't know if did they play that for last where she crushes them? I can't remember.
It's not her. There's one person. I can't remember which character.
Yeah, the horrible one.
They drop the person in the wheelchair. They're not able to catch her. She like backs up or something.
I'm trying to look for it. But I can't remember. So, if that's the case, then the movie shits all over the fact that it's been having.
I rescind my previous statement.
Yeah. If not, then congratulations, movie. You managed to avoid what would be a very, very crass joke. I can't quite remember, and I can't find it. So.
I don't recall.
It's very much the former.
And I've seen this movie more than once, so I think that like. I don't know. Let's not go come down one side of the fence or the other on whether that actually occurs. Let's talk about the final portion of this movie, which is kind of like it's the high school dance. They've got to go back to 1955 and make Marty McFly's parents fall in love with each other.
Asshole! You fucking asshole!
I was like, all right, yeah, cool, yeah. Oh, wait a minute.
1950.
Why aren't we doing Back to the Future sooner? Because that's a fantastic movie that I could talk about.
Because apparently we'd rather watch like mid-aughts fucking teen comedies than
the thing is
mid-80s teen comedies.
It's in the same category as Shawshank Redemption, not production value or like such a story.
not in quality.
Hang on,
theme, tone, casting,
themes.
What I'm saying is, you colossal pricks.
It's like a sequel. It's like a sequel, really, isn't it? Shawshank 2.
Back to the Future 4, the Shawshank Redemption. Marty, I'm going to tell you about Andy Dufresne and the sisters.
I'm dropping out of this podcast because there's such sort of well-loved movies, and like it's hard to sort of to find new things to talk about. I would love to do Back to the Future, but I think it would just be, oh, do you remember when this happened? Yeah, that was awesome. Oh, and what about when they got in the car? Oh, fuck yeah, I love the DeLorean.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. So let's carry on trudging through this then, shall we?
So Mean Girls.
They have... Katie's been grounded, and she basically has like admitted to the school. She says to stop her teacher getting basically put in prison for selling drugs. Or she's been selling drugs.
Those are the stakes.
Those are the stakes. Because again, like the coach turned out to be a paedophile, so maybe all of this is true.
He gets a pass, but we can't let two slide. Sorry,
Reed. What now?
So Katie says it was me. I wrote it all, like, which is silly because it wasn't. But okay, she said it was her, so that basically everyone else isn't in trouble. She gets grounded. She joins the mathletes, and like, there's a weird thing at the end of this movie where has Regina been hit by the bus yet? Did we mention that?
Yes. No. We've missed it. This we'll come back to, because I know I see where you're going, but this come out of nowhere. Like, I was just, what the fuck, especially when because of the narration, and she's like, and then she died, and then she goes, just kidding. She was grievously injured though. Like, it was.
Do you know what? That's
Spinal
really
fracture.
Really
Spinal
funny.
fracture.
It's a funny scene because
That's
like
great.
you don't. It just literally like the bus just plows out of the side of the screen and runs down, and you're like, what? It takes you a second to be like, I'm sorry, what just happened?
You mentioned Scrubs, Ross, and that is it's just exactly that type of like cutaway gag where you think, that's weird, but actually they managed to pay it off through the plot. So that's an important point, isn't it? Because now she's kind of like recovering, and you know, she's got this brace on to go to the dance and stuff.
Yeah, but Katie isn't going to the dance now. It's confusing because she's going to the mathlete tournament.
Katie.
Whatever. I refuse to be censored or made to say the right names. But she doesn't tell her parents that, who presumably like, oh yeah, absolutely, you can go to this maths competition. So they think she's gone to the dance. It's a really weird thing of like, I know you're grounded, but like, I'm sure your parents would be like, yes, of course, we are happy for you to go to a scholastic competition that you're competing in.
Yeah.
You know,
why
is it at the same time as the prom, by the way?
I know, it's weird. Because none of the nerds were going to the prom. That's why.
But isn't
you shouldn't make it that obvious. Like, have this the next day. You know,
isn't the guy love interest though on the math team? No.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So
he's supposed to be like, no.
But the math scene. I think it's funny. It works well, and you get to see that thing which I spoke about earlier of her like rejecting the maths club because she doesn't want to be a nerd, and actually she's dead smart, and like the message is you should embrace that. You should embrace being smart, even though you might get beaten to shit because of that. But I mean, you know, if
the tip for any aspiring kids out there. Like if you look as good as Lindsay Lohan, if you're good looking, you can be a nerd. It's fine. Like no problem. No one's gonna have a problem with you being a nerd if you're really good looking. It's okay.
If you want to be smart, you better be pretty.
If
also, if you're going to be dumb, you better be pretty. Just be pretty.
Rule one: be pretty. Like you know.
If you're a nerd in high school and you are average looking, then the inevitable result is you're going to get a podcast with two of your friends. That's what's going to happen. That's the result. So
this is what success sounds like, guys.
And looks like
this is literally the best we could do.
One day you can be us.
Yeah. Please.
Great line delivery.
Patreon.com.
So we have the dance scene at the end, and this is the scene I have.
Here we go.
Maybe my second least favorite scene. So we have. I really it's tropey, and this whole movie is tropey. But somehow she wins like spring. It's the spring dance, Spring Queen. Like what? That's never really like logically explained as to how she wins.
How does she win? I think it's because she like half of the. Is it because half of the kids who there's something about half the kids. It's that half the kids didn't like you, half of them did. So the ones who did like you because I don't get it. I couldn't follow
it. It's something like, they do it, but it's something like, a lot of them didn't want to vote for such and such a person.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. So some of them voted for you because they don't disagree with the system, so they wanted to like anyway.
Yeah,
it's like a contrary vote.
That doesn't feel like a victory, though, does it? Like
essentially, essentially, it's we need to have Lindsay Lohan up on stage, and she can't be playing the guitar in the band because this isn't Back to the Future. But we have to have her up on stage, and she has to do the speech. And it's just like, fucking take me out back and shoot me.
To be fair,
we all just get along. I'm breaking this crown. You're a queen, and you're a queen, and you're a queen. And I'm like, oh my fucking lord.
To be fair, though,
woman out of her misery.
Dave. Yep.
No, but the film does hang a lantern on it and say, and I love the delivery from Tim Meadows. He's like, there was no requirement for you to give a speech, and then later on, feel free to stop at any point.
Yeah. Seriously, people usually just take the crown.
Take the crown. Like that was funny. That was really made me laugh because it is subverting it a little bit, where you've got like the lovely speech and all that, which is. It's fine. It kind of fits the film. It kind of fits her arc, and it fits the direction that the film's going in, which is why can't we all just be friends and we're all special and everyone's unique and that's okay and that's good. So I don't mind it. I think it's a bit trite, but that's the point. It's a teen movie.
It's entirely trite. I just think my problem is that like you've got the foundation for like a really fun like teen movie here, especially when Regina gets hit by the bus. Like you're in crazy country then. You can do what you like.
Yes.
You just run one of your characters over with a bus. You know, like you could have like a really zany ending to this movie, but they don't. They go for like the most trite, like we'll all be friends sort of ending, and like, when we were 16, God, we didn't know anything, but now we're 17, we're all cool.
Aren't we all pretty in our own way?
Yeah,
we're all just. I mean, chilled. I'm pretty because I'm absolutely gorgeous, but aren't we all pretty? Even you ugly people, aren't you pretty?
Especially
too?
Me, because I am.
There is
pretty.
Again though. There is a shot. There is like two. There's two of the people that she throws a thing to. One of them is the woman in the wheelchair, the girl in the wheelchair. I don't necessarily think the film is like actively saying, despite the way you are, you're still pretty. I don't think the film is like trying at that, but it kind of comes off. It's a little bit like an affirmative thing where we're going to Well, not.
It isn't. I think it's just played as if like.
But the fact, but when they go to the basically the fat girl, which is like even you with your hair, like it's. I just think it's a little bit too close to just being.
What she says along with it, even you with fuck you, bitch.
Even you ugly.
Yeah. What do you mean, even me? Fuck you,
worm of a person.
Yeah. I don't think it's an intention of the movie, but I think it's maybe just like
Jesus, Sam, you are very forgiving of this movie.
No.
You are very. The paedophile goes scot-free. Fucking, they're like, patting the girl in the wheelchair on the head, and you're like, oh no, they didn't mean it like that. And
I wasn't advocating those things.
Sounds like you are.
What I'm saying is, I think it's a early 2000s like cultural thing where the intention is to point out that even these freaks can be nice.
It's a bit tone deaf, isn't it?
Yeah. Whereas actually, maybe just have integrate them as characters into the film, so we
with lines. Yeah.
Just one or two.
I don't know about that, guys.
A line that isn't "I have an onset wide vagina."
I have a wide set vagina and a heavy glow is the exact quote. It's seared into my brain. But we have this prom scene, and then we have the flash forward, don't we? Where and now we're all sat on the grass and we're all just chilled out and look, it's Amy Adams, and she's wearing a t-shirt. She's obviously cool now.
Rachel McAdams, but yes, not Amy Adams.
What did I say?
It's Amy Adams. It's a different movie.
Fair enough. I'm very tired.
Let's get Amy Adams in. She's great, though. Brilliant. I can see it. Yeah.
She could play every role in some sort of Eddie Murphy-ish thing.
John Malkovich.
Yeah. But we have this really we're all fine now, and we have a voiceover. And it's and we all got over our teenage angst overnight somehow. ? Don't address that too closely. And when Aaron's gone to college, but I still get to see him occasionally. And it's wasn't your relationship based on lies and base lust?
I think we can literally count on one hand the amount of times we see her speak to him.
Genuinely
develop relationship.
If there was a scene after this scene where you to see the principal signing an order to keep medicating an entire year of this school, it would fit. You'd be like, oh, actually, that explains the ending. Yeah, they're all fucking high as shit. Great.
Yeah. Well, you talk about the zaniness, and I think the bit at the end where we get to see the new plastics, who are like I don't know how much, maybe a year below or something, but they look a lot younger anyway. You know, maybe like 14 or something. So they're coming, they're walking on, and then we get this bit where they get hit by the bus, just like
Lindsay Lohan says, "Oh, what?" Someone says to her, like, "What? Oh, the new plastics. You know, we'll have to solve that." And then it's like, "Oh, we'll just run them over with a bus, like we did to Regina." That seemed to have done the job there.
Yeah. It's a weird, like, I think if they'd ended on the bus thing, I think this whole movie changes. I think everything changes, because then you're like, so
you'd question things. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's just like, is this real? Like, is it? Have I been basically had a what's the word? Irresponsible narrator. You know, when
unreliable narrator.
God, my brain.
Unreliable.
Irresponsible. Just throwing
irresponsible drinking while driving.
Yeah. We've got an unreliable narrator who's basically been telling us a load of shit throughout the movie, and then you could almost go back in like a Memento style thing, where you could go back and watch it and see the points where she's been talking shit, you know. But the film doesn't want to go there because it wants to end on a positive message. I think the positive message is back in the scene with Tina Fey in the gym, you know,
bathroom,
like I think it would have been a great choice though, just to say, well, that's it. Believe what you want, you know. We're going to end on these girls getting run over by a bus.
I would have liked. So let's try and let's talk about ways this movie maybe could have distinguished itself a little more, because I think this is quite a big movie. It made a lot of money. It cost 13 million to make, and I think it made about 130, 140 at box office. So it made bank. And I think it's quite well known for all that. I certainly don't think it's got the cult following that something like 10 Things I Hate About You's got. But for my money,
I think it has a much broader following. Surely, doesn't it? I mean, I think
what I mean is I don't think anyone's quite as oh my god, Mean Girls is the best thing. I don't think it has that same level of fandom. Do you know what I mean? I don't think the people who like this love it as much as the people who like
Mean Girls is Mean Girls. Do you know what I mean? Whereas 10 Things has, Dave put that following. Do you know what I mean? And stands the test of time, as we've said in our previous episode. But Mean Girls, just by pure osmosis, you're aware of the things that goes on in it, and it's a mean movie now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's maybe more singular. 10 Things I Hate About You is maybe more singular, but the cultural impact of this, I think, is huge. We've talked about the memes. There's also I think there's a Mean Girls Day, which you see on the internet every now and again, October 3rd, which is some line that Katie says in the film about being October 3rd. There's also I think the amount of memes and their misappropriation. One, which is crazy when you think about this. I'll just quote here. In June 2018, the official Twitter account of the Israeli embassy in the United States made headlines when it responded to a tweet by Iranian leader calling Israel a malignant cancerous tumor with an animated gif of the "Why are you so obsessed with me?" quote from Mean Girls.
Wow.
Which is diplomacy by meme, I think, is what that is, which is quite amazing.
Jesus Christ.
Please, whoever's managing that account, great comms, maybe not applied in the right way.
Maybe not.
As a marketing
that was an intern on their last day. Do you know what I mean? They don't give a fuck.
Don't worry, guys. They're in an Israeli prison now. It's fine.
You think they made it to prison? That's very optimistic.
It's like Guantanamo Bay, Ross. It's like Israeli prison. They're fine.
Moving on. Yeah.
I said we weren't going to mention Israel on this episode.
But it does. I think there is a generational thing though about this being the high school movie, probably in the same way for many people that Breakfast Club, was the high school movie a few decades. I have an analog for boys. I think this is maybe like the American Pie for women in a lot of ways.
I'd agree there.
I think that you're doing a very confused face, Sam. I think like American Pie is something that when we were teenagers, like we were obsessed with. That, and like I think for girls, this is maybe kind of like that, you know, not in quite the same way, but I think that like there is a gender disparity here, and obviously as men, like it's hard for us to talk about this in obviously from that point of view because of being men, but I think maybe it's in terms of like the lasting
men are the worst,
like the lasting we are the worst, the lasting cultural knowledge of like being quoted in this movie. This Mean Girls is really quotable, but it's never a movie that even though I saw as a teenager, like I would have really really adored because it's it's a girls movie ultimately.
Yeah, despite I think a lot of the real best efforts of the writing, which I think it does a great job. And as we've said already, I think this is a better script than it is a movie because some of the lines like are just amazing, like amazing jokes, really funny, amazingly delivered by this great comedic cast. And then you're like, okay, but I've got to watch more movie to get to the next one where we get so it kind of. I think there is an effort to make it a bit more like broad, but also for adults because you could watch this as a 12.
They did tone down some of the language. Sorry, to make this. I think it's like a PG-13 in America, which is like a 12A here, something like that.
Yeah, 12.
And so like there's the line of such and such made out with a hot dog. Like the actual like joke in the script is such and such fucked a hot dog. But they couldn't say it. Or like, sorry, masturbated with a hot dog. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so, but like, that's the joke, and that's really funny. Made out with a hot dog is funny, but that's really funny. But they couldn't put it in because then your 12-year-olds can't go and see this movie. Because, Mummy, what's masturbation?
Yeah, let's
and there was another joke about popping your cherry, but they decided that was too like colloquially known, so they changed it to buttered her muffin. Or something, which is like not really the same. Doesn't make any sense, but okay.
But it's no different. It's no weirder than popping a cherry in terms of
but
it's phrase.
It's like it's what I said about this being like a secret SNL like adult movie, not adult movie, but like movie for adults, I should say. Like because they kind of had to hide all of this like quite adult humor. In a movie that is, relatively like there's a lot of adult themes here, but it's for teenagers. It's for like, and it's not even for 16 and 17-year-olds. This is for 12 and 13-year-olds. It's kind of like that's where your money is.
Yeah. Who are dreaming of high school and what it's going to be like, and then these are the expectations they set with some jokes thrown in for the grown-ups who are usually falling asleep in a dark cinema while they're the teenage daughter and her annoying friends giggle and throw popcorn and stuff. So yeah.
But it's a good.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. I have to say, like the process of watching it was fun. There was enough to keep me going, and that's kind of what I want from any movie, really. Like I don't need to be blown away every time. I can just enjoy it as a thing, and I think it makes for a good conversation.
You and I are on opposite sides of the fence on this one, Sam. I didn't enjoy it at all. So, Dave, you look like you want to say something there before I did. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
smooth.
It's it for me, like we all agree that the opening was quite intriguing, but I feel like the fish out of water thing. Someone from South Africa. You could have made that character from anything else, because they said as well that she's homeschooled. Just make her homeschooled then, because she doesn't speak with a South African accent or an African accent. But you can overlook that. It's a teen movie. But what makes her different about being from Africa, as opposed to being homeschooled, from any other part of the country? There's some clips there about the high school is like the jungle, and then they're acting like monkeys and stuff. But it's really low hanging fruit for me. And it could have been something really interesting to explore there, and it just doesn't. But again, it's a teen movie, so maybe not. But then don't make it from South Africa. Do you know what I mean? It goes on, and then it's watchable. It's fine. There's some jokes, and again, the teacher characters, they're all fantastic. But it's that third act for me, and it's like someone just pulled the handbrake, and Jesus, it dragged by for me.
Ross,
Dave,
Ross, I don't think my father, the inventor of the toaster strudel, is going to be pleased to hear this. I really don't. I don't think it's going to be...
Your father can suck my dick.
He can butter his muffin.
Yeah, come on. This is a PG podcast.
I like this movie largely.
Sam, I just realised that your dad actually listens to this podcast, so Mr. Jordan, I do apologise.
Nah, and Andrew's pretty cool.
I thought you were just saying something
fine.
throwaway. I was like, oh shit, no, he actually listens to this. So
yeah,
yes, you don't have to.
That's very respectful. Yeah, we can insult. I can insult both of your parents because they didn't listen to it, so it's all good. Like it's fine.
You're a brave man. Yeah.
not to their faces, Sam. Just bear that in mind.
Just on the podcast.
So I kind of agree with you largely, Sam. I did like this movie. I think it flows quite well. It's quite well made. The bits I enjoyed, as we discussed, I really liked Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, and Tim Meadows are like. They're who I'm there for, like all the best lines were from Tim Meadows.
The baseball bat gone.
Yeah, it's just the fact he's got like carpal tunnel. He's got this massive thing. Like I love how pathetic all of these adults are, and they're like, oh, my car's been stolen. I don't have any money to buy a new car. I love that. There's a really depressing movie about how underpaid teachers are in the background.
Tina Fey
of
had
this
a second
movie.
job.
Three jobs.
Yep.
3 jobs.
Yep. And again, like there are secret movies going on in the background of this movie, and it's kind of to its credit. For me, I liked the Africa stuff, and if you're gonna have that, what I would want is much more of like a zany, like kids acting like animals, like throwing water at each other. But I would want that throughout the movie. I would want all these cutaways where like her and Regina have a big fight, and they have a fight, but what we see is they both get down on all fours and start flinging dirt at each other
Snarling.
and have a proper fight.
Yeah.
David Attenborough is commenting,
and then
now we see the two gorillas face off against one another.
Yeah, and then we could like pan back into the end of the fight where they're both storming off, and like we know as a viewer that but it's maybe a bit heavy-handed, but there's a way of doing that where like high school is a jungle. That would be the theme of the movie, is that high school is a jungle. I think you could do that.
It's a funny bit though, isn't it? It's a funny bit, and I think the tension of that would be then like integrating it in a 1.5 hour movie. But I totally agree, and I think your suggestion, Ross, that this would be a good TV show. I absolutely agree with that, because I think it really would work better as a bit more segmented, so you could lean into some of the comedy a bit more, and not have to be beholden to your runtime, which is this definitely.
I think they've got a sequel, I believe,
direct to DVD or streaming or whatever it is. No, literally nobody's involved, other than one person who I am just.
You find out, but I'm genuinely surprised. I assume that none of the cast wanted to come back, and like that's usually the sticking point of like, because this made enough money, like. You could do a second movie and it'd be shite, but it'd be fine. Who came back, Sam? Who came back?
Tim Meadows. With his baseball bat.
I'm going to watch it right now. I'm sorry, but that was the one person you could have said, and I was like, well, all right, I'm back on board.
Absolutely. He is there. He's there, and I'm going to go and just look for
He's the Eugene Levy. He's the Eugene Levy of the Moonville series.
Yes.
Like Eugene Levy came back for every one of those piss poor straight to DVD American Pie sequels.
American Pie 7 Bandcamp.
Listen,
American Pie 7 Kindergarten Cop 7.
There was even one called American Pie Presents. Like what?
What?
Amazing.
There was actually one thing. Sorry, Dave. I'll just a quick tidbit on American Pie. There was one thing where. Someone pointed out that, like, in Tesco stuff, like they sell like DVD series of movies and stuff.
I thought you were going to say pies that you can fuck. I was like,
no, Jesus,
wow. At Tesco's they sell pies like they fucking American Pie. Oh, interesting, Ross. Interesting.
We're running over here, so I need to get in.
That was back.
But so there was so there's a box set, American Pie 1, 2, and 3 for £20. And then there was American Pie 1 to 7 for £12. So I
think I'll pay the extra £7 to not have those movies.
Not only is the extra movies cheaper, but it devalues.
It's because
it devalues the first 3 three movies literally financially devalues the first three movies.
It's because if you're buying that as a gift at Christmas and you hand someone 1 to 7, someone's looking like, what the fuck? And if you hand them, I like those films, but 1 to 7, fuck you must really hate me. God damn it!
Yeah, one day we should do some of those sequels. 'Cause I bet American Pie earns the title of cummiest comedy to ever be made.
Yeah,
I know we said we're going to do Shawshank. Let's just do the American Pie fucking anthology.
American Pie podcast. That's what we are now.
American Pie 14. Who could possibly understand what's happening?
Eugene Levy's still there.
Eugene Levy's now the main character. He's now fucking the pie.
And then we could all take, like, our American Pie personality tests. Sam, obviously Stifler. Dave, Eugene Levy. Ross, doesn't matter because he killed himself after the third movie.
Ross, Nadia, the foreign exchange student. There you go.
Good lord, the amount of consent issues in that movie. We should do it one day. That would be fun.
Do you know what? I bet that movie does not hold up.
Not in 2021, I imagine. But what we are, so that's we've done Me Girls. Well done. We're not doing American Pie because I will not let us. I think next week I think next week we're doing The Terminal, which we may have teased before, but we are actually going to do it this time.
I think I'm busy that day.
I actually like Terminal.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see what it's like on the rewatch. This is the Tom Hanks movie from 2004.
Tom Hanks lives in an airport, and that's somehow not problematic or escaping indictment of the American immigration system.
It's weird. We'll go there, but I'm sure there's a lovely, hopeful message at the end. Just because it's a Tom Hanks movie, was contractually obliged to include. But we'll get there.
I'm sure Tom Hanks is good in it. I'll say that.
Probably.
I
haven't seen it in
we'll
many
be back
years.
for that, and I'm going to say it right now. I think that movie is going to be worse than this movie was, and I think it's longer.
Oh,
it is
dear.
longer. It is longer.
More than 2 hours.
The thing is,
Christ.
if Terminal was 90 minutes, I think we'd get away with it. I think it would get away with it. I think it's like 2 hours plus. And
Tom Hanks.
I like it, but I think you guys are going to tear it to shreds.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. It's my favorite thing about the podcast is taking a movie that one of us really loves. The one that really jumps to mind is Pursuit of Happiness.
And going through a PowerPoint presentation why their opinion is wrong.
Reason the 51st why you're wrong about this movie. And then by the end of the podcast, and this is what I love, and we have it with me as well frequently, by the end of the podcast, the person who loved that movie does not love that movie as much. Like, we literally break down your own, liking or something. Yeah.
Childhood destroyed by...
We devalue it. We literally devalue our own memories.
We American Pie the movies you like.
1 to 7. 12 quid. Right, guys. We'll leave it there, and thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week.
Take care, folks.